The flashbulbs popped like gunfire the moment Ariana grabbed the microphone and said those words that changed everything. "Everyone, I want you to meet the special person I'm going to marry," she announced, her voice steady despite the tremor I could feel from across the stage. And then the curtain rose, revealing me standing there in my white vest, heart pounding as the world realized the truth we had hidden for so long. The roar from the crowd hit me like a wave, a mix of cheers, gasps, and what sounded like boos rolling in from the back rows. I froze, my fingers tightening around the edge of my vest, the fabric suddenly feeling too tight against my chest. Ariana turned to me with that smile she saved only for private moments, the one that had pulled me through every doubt, but all I could think about was my mother's face if she was watching this live from her living room in Texas. This was supposed to be Ariana's night, the final show of her sold-out tour at the Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles, but she had decided to make it ours. I had begged her not to, or at least to warn me properly, but here we were. My name is Brittany Hayes, and until 10 seconds ago, I was just the quiet woman who handled Ariana's schedule and kept her grounded. Now the entire internet was probably already typing, "Ariana's mystery woman in white vest," into search bars. My phone vibrated in my pocket non-stop, but I couldn't look. The lights were too bright, the air too thick with the scent of dry ice and expensive perfume. Ariana reached for my hand, squeezing it gently as she waved to the screaming fans. "This is Brittany," she said into the mic, her voice cracking just a little. "The woman who makes every song I write feel real." The applause swelled again, but I caught the shift in some faces near the front, the way their smiles faltered when they processed that I was a woman too, standing beside her not as a friend or assistant but as her future wife. My stomach twisted. I had grown up in a small church in Plano, Texas, where Pastor Daniels preached every Sunday that marriage was between a man and a woman, that feelings like mine were tests from God to overcome. My parents had raised me on those same words, taking me to youth group and Bible study like it was oxygen. Loving Ariana had felt like breathing underwater for 2 years, beautiful and terrifying all at once. Now the water was rushing in and I didn't know if I could surface. Ariana leaned in close, her lips brushing my ear so only I could hear. "We don't have to hide anymore, Britt. This is us." Her words were supposed to be freeing, but they landed like stones in my chest. I smiled for the cameras because that was what I had practiced in the mirror for weeks, but inside I was already calculating the fallout. My mother would call any minute, her voice thick with tears and scripture. My father would stay silent at first, then quote Leviticus like he always did when I disappointed him. And what about my little brother, still in youth group, looking up to me as the big sister who had it all figured out? The stage felt smaller by the second, the crowd blurring into a sea of judgment I had spent my whole life trying to avoid. We walked off together after the final bow, hand in hand, the security team forming a wall around us. Backstage was chaos, managers shouting about trending hashtags and interview requests. Ariana was glowing, her cheeks flushed with the adrenaline of finally being honest. "Did you see their faces? They loved it," she said, pulling me into a quick hug. I nodded, but my mind was already racing ahead to the texts I knew were waiting. One from my mom popped up first. "Call me. Now." 3 words, and my world cracked open wider. I excused myself to the bathroom, locking the door and sliding down against the cool tile. The vest felt heavy now, like armor I wasn't sure I deserved to wear. How could something that felt so right to Ariana feel like I was betraying everyone who had ever loved me? The question looped in my head as the cheers from the arena faded into the distance, leaving only the sound of my own breathing and the weight of choices I could no longer undo. 2 years earlier, I had never planned to fall in love with a pop star. I was 27, fresh out of a dead-end marketing job in Dallas, when a friend recommended me for an assistant position with Ariana Voss. She was already climbing the charts with her debut album, Echoes in the Dark, but still small enough that she handled her own schedule most days. I flew to Los Angeles for the interview, expecting a diva. Instead, I met a woman in oversized sunglasses and a hoodie, laughing over coffee in a tiny studio office. "Call me Ari," she said, shaking my hand like we were old friends. Her voice was softer in person, less polished than the radio version. Within a week I was organizing her rehearsals, booking flights, and learning that behind the spotlight she preferred quiet nights with books and herbal tea. We clicked instantly. Late nights turned into conversations that stretched until dawn, her sharing stories about growing up in a broken home in Chicago, me opening up about the church that had been my whole world back in Texas. She never pushed, just listened with those dark eyes that seemed to see straight through my careful walls. The first time I felt the shift was during a rainstorm in Seattle after a show. We were stranded in her hotel suite, sharing a pizza, when she asked why I never dated. I froze, the old answers rising automatically. I'm focusing on my career. But Ariana just smiled softly. It's okay if it's more than that, Britt. I get it. That night we stayed up talking about everything and nothing, and when her hand brushed mine reaching for the last slice, electricity shot through me. I pulled away, heart racing, mumbling something about needing sleep. The feelings grew slowly like roots pushing through concrete. Stolen glances during sound checks. Inside jokes that made the crew roll their eyes. The way she would hum my favorite hymns when she thought I wasn't listening. I fought it every step. My faith wasn't just words to me. It was the foundation my parents had built our family on. Sunday calls home always ended with Mom asking if I had met a nice Christian boy yet. Dad would follow up with a prayer over the phone. I started avoiding church in LA, telling myself it was because of the schedule, but really it was guilt eating at me. How could I sit in a pew and pretend when every thought of Ariana made me question everything I had been taught? The night it finally happened was after her first Grammy nomination party. We had slipped away to my apartment, the city lights twinkling below. Ariana looked at me across the kitchen island and said, "I think I'm falling for you, Brittany. And I don't want to fight it anymore." Her honesty cracked something open in me. I kissed her first, tentative and scared. But she kissed back like she had been waiting forever. It wasn't fireworks or movie romance. It was quiet and real, two women finally letting themselves breathe. We promised to keep it secret, at least until her career stabilized. "The world isn't ready," she said, tracing my cheek. I agreed because hiding felt safer than facing my family's disappointment. For months we lived in that bubble, late-night drives up the coast, whispered promises in hotel rooms. But secrets have expiration dates, and mine was ticking louder every day. I avoided my mother's questions about why I sounded so happy yet so distant. The argument started small. Ariana wanted to tell her manager at least. I pushed back, terrified of leaks. "Your faith doesn't have to disappear because of us," she would say gently during our fights. But to me it felt like it was vanishing anyway. I began reading my Bible alone at night, searching for answers that never came. Pastor Danielle's old sermons echoed in my head, warnings about temptation and eternal consequences. Yet lying next to Ariana, her breathing steady in the dark, I felt more at peace than I ever had in church. The contradiction tore at me. One evening after a particularly bad call home, where Mom mentioned setting me up with the pastor's son, I broke down in Ariana's arms. "I don't know how to be both," I whispered. She held me tighter. "You don't have to choose, Britt. Love isn't a sin." Her words were comfort and conflict all at once. Little did I know those same words would lead us to the stage where everything would explode into the open. By the time Ariana's tour kicked off, our secret had become a delicate dance of stolen moments and careful lies. I traveled with her as the assistant, but everyone on the team suspected something. The way she looked at me during rehearsals, the private smiles backstage, it was getting harder to hide. We fought more than we admitted. Ariana wanted openness. I wanted time. "My family will disown me," I told her one night in a Chicago hotel after she suggested coming out to her publicist. She sat on the bed, legs crossed, her tour hoodie swallowing her frame. "And what about you, Britt? How long can you keep pretending this is just a phase?" Her question stung because it was the same one I asked myself every time I prayed. My parents flew out for a show in Dallas, their first time seeing Ariana perform live. I introduced them backstage as my boss, the tension thick enough to choke on. Mom hugged me extra tight, whispering, "You look different, honey. Happier. Is there someone?" I lied through my teeth, blaming the California sun. Dad shook Ariana's hand politely but later pulled me aside. "That world out there, it's not God's path, Brittany. Don't lose yourself." His words landed like bricks. That night Ariana and I argued in the tour bus until dawn. She accused me of letting fear run our lives. I accused her of not understanding what it meant to have a family rooted in faith. Neither of us was entirely wrong. She came from chaos, No steady beliefs to anchor her. I came from certainty that now felt like chains. The internal war grew louder. I started attending a small non-denominational church in LA on my rare off days, sitting in the back row hoping no one recognized me. The sermons on love and acceptance clashed with the ones from home on purity and design. I journaled furiously, pages filled with questions. Was loving Ariana betraying God? Or was denying her betraying myself? Ariana found one entry by accident and read it silently. Instead of anger, she cried with me. "I don't want to be the reason you lose your peace," she said. But walking away wasn't an option anymore. Our love had roots too deep. Then came the pregnancy scare. Not real but enough to force a conversation. We sat on the floor of her mansion, surrounded by half-packed suitcases for the next leg of the tour. "If we were straight, this would be easy," I muttered. Ariana laughed bitterly. "If we were straight, we wouldn't be us." She proposed the idea of a quiet commitment ceremony first, just us and a few friends. I agreed on the condition we kept it private. The ceremony was simple, held at a beach house in Malibu with a lesbian pastor who didn't push doctrine. Vows exchanged under the sunset, rings hidden under our shirts. It felt sacred in its own way, but the secrecy gnawed at me. Back home, my mother planned my imaginary wedding to some imaginary man, sending me dress links. Each text was a fresh cut. The pressure peaked when Ariana's label hinted at pushing a heterosexual image for her next album. She refused, but the conversation planted seeds of doubt in me. Was I holding her back? Was my fear costing her the career she had bled for? We made love that night with a desperation that scared me. Bodies speaking what words couldn't. Afterward she whispered, "Marry me for real, Britt." In front of everyone. I didn't answer. Instead I stared at the ceiling, the weight of tradition and religion pressing down like the Pacific waves outside. The tour continued, but the cracks were widening. Every sold-out show was another reminder that the woman beside me on stage was ready to burn it all down for us, while I was still trying to save the pieces of my old life. The decision to go public didn't come in one dramatic fight. It built like a slow storm across the final weeks of the tour. Ariana's manager called a meeting in New York, warning that rumors were swirling and the label wanted a statement. "Deny it or own it," he said flatly. Ariana looked at me across the conference table, her eyes pleading. I nodded once barely and the plan was set. She would announce at the last show. I would stand beside her. Simple on paper, devastating in practice. I called my parents the night before, voice shaking as I tried to prepare them. "Mom, Dad, there's something I need to tell you." The silence on the line stretched forever. When I finally said the words, "I'm in love with Ariana and we're getting married," Mom gasped like I'd punched her. Dad's voice was quiet steel. "This is the devil's lie, Brittany. Come home. We'll pray through it." The call ended in tears and scripture quotes I had heard 1,000 times. Ariana held me afterward, but the damage was done. I spent the night rereading old Bible passages, searching for loopholes that didn't exist. She didn't push, just reminded me that love wasn't a choice. "Your family loves you," she said softly. "They just don't understand yet." But understanding felt impossible when their faith painted us as broken. The next morning I woke with a headache and a resolve that felt paper thin. We rehearsed the reveal like a stage number, me standing off to the side in the white vest I had picked because it felt strong, masculine even, a quiet rebellion against the dresses my mother had always pushed. Ariana approved with a kiss. "You look like the future," she whispered. The show started normally, hits and ballads, the crowd singing along. But as the final song approached, my hands trembled. Backstage, Ariana squeezed them. "Whatever happens, we face it together." The lights dimmed for the announcement, and my stomach dropped. When she spoke those words into the mic, I stepped forward as planned. The reaction was immediate and mixed. Some fans cheering wildly, others whispering. Phones lit up the arena like stars. I smiled through it, but inside I was screaming. The post-show interviews blurred together. Reporters asked about our journey. Code for how two women could dare this. Ariana answered with grace. I managed short replies. Then the texts flooded in. My brother sent a single message. "Is this real?" My aunt from church called crying. The worst was Mom's voicemail. "We raised you better. This isn't the Brittany we know." Ariana saw my face and pulled me aside. "They need time." But time felt like a luxury we didn't have. That night in the hotel, we lay awake debating the cost. She argued that hiding had been the real sin against ourselves. I countered that forcing the truth had shattered my family without their consent. Neither of us backed down completely. The conversation stretched into philosophical territory: religion versus personal truth, tradition versus happiness. It was exhausting and honest, the kind of talk that left us closer even as it hurt. By morning I knew the announcement was just the beginning. The real battles waited at home. The backlash hit harder than expected once we returned to Texas for a family visit I had foolishly agreed to. My parents' house in Plano looked the same, white picket fence and cross on the wall, but the atmosphere had shifted to ice. Dad met us at the door with a forced smile, Mom avoiding eye contact. Ariana tried her best, bringing flowers and complimenting the garden, but the tension crackled. Over dinner the conversation turned to faith almost immediately. "We love you, Brittany," Mom said, voice trembling. "But this lifestyle goes against God's word." Ariana listened quietly at first, then spoke up gently. "With respect, ma'am, my love for your daughter isn't a lifestyle. It's who I am." The debate ignited. Dad quoted Romans. Ariana countered with stories of love transcending labels. I sat between them, caught in the crossfire, my own beliefs fracturing further. No one raised their voice, but every word carried years of conviction. My parents weren't monsters. They genuinely believed they were saving my soul, inviting their pastor over the next day for counseling. Pastor Daniels was kind in his way, offering prayer and pamphlets about same-sex attraction as a trial. Ariana sat through it with me, holding my hand under the table. "Brittany has always been strong in her faith," he said. "This can be overcome." I wanted to scream that it wasn't something to overcome, but the words stuck. Ariana's eyes flashed with anger she kept leashed. Later in the car she exploded. "They see me as the problem, not the love." I defended them weakly. "They think they're doing right by me." The argument carried us back to LA, where the media storm waited. Articles called our relationship a publicity stunt or a fall from grace. Fans divided, some supportive, others sending hate mail laced with Bible verses. Internally I spiraled. Nights blurred into questioning everything. Was I selfish for choosing Ariana over the peace of my family's approval? Was she selfish for pushing the reveal? We talked for hours, voices raw. She admitted fame made her crave authenticity more than secrecy. I admitted fear had kept me small. The turning point came during a quiet walk in Griffith Park. "I don't regret us," I told her. "But I regret how much this hurts them." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "Me too. But running back to hiding would hurt you more." We held each other under the trees, accepting that no choice was clean. My family cut contact gradually, texts slowing to nothing. Ariana's career took a hit with conservative sponsors pulling out, but new doors opened with authentic fans. The losses mounted, yet in the quiet moments we found responsibility in our decision. We had chosen truth and now we carried the weight. Months passed in a fragile new normal. We planned a small wedding in a private vineyard north of San Francisco. Just close friends and Ariana's team. No big stage this time. Just us exchanging vows under oak trees with a simple officiant who celebrated love without judgment. I wore the same white vest from that night, now feeling like a symbol of the strength I had found. Ariana looked radiant in soft ivory, her hand steady in mine. As we said, "I do," a peace settled that surprised me. Not the absence of pain but the acceptance of it. My family sent no response to the invitation. The empty chair spoke louder than words. Ariana squeezed my hand during the ceremony, knowing without asking. Afterward we danced slowly to one of her quieter songs, the world reduced to just us. Life settled into routines. Her in the studio, me managing our shared foundation for LGBTQ youth from religious backgrounds. We counseled young people torn between faith and identity, sharing our story without preaching. The work brought purpose, turning our loss into something that helped others. Yet quiet nights still carried echoes. I called my parents once, leaving a message about the wedding photos if they ever wanted to see them. No reply came. Ariana never said, "I told you so." Instead she held space for my grief, reminding me that responsibility didn't mean regret. Our love had deepened through the fire, no longer secret but forged. Friends from church back home occasionally reached out, some curious, some condemning. Each conversation was a reminder that the divide wasn't simple. My parents weren't villains, they loved me by their lights. I wasn't a victim. I had chosen this path knowing the cost. One evening on our balcony overlooking the hills, Ariana asked if I would do it again. I thought long before answering. Yes, but I'd have found a gentler way to tell them. She smiled sadly. Me too. The acceptance wasn't victory. It was living with the pieces. We had lost family approval, parts of our old selves, and the illusion that love fixes everything. In return, we gained honesty in each other. The journey had taught us that awakening comes not from winning arguments but from owning the hurt we caused and the freedom we claimed. As the sun set, painting the sky in gold and rose, I felt the weight shift from burden to quiet strength. True or false? Choosing love over tradition always leads to true freedom, or does it simply trade one set of chains for another?